All right, I'm going to come right out the gate swinging on this one. Bloodline Killers is one of the dumbest fucking movies I've ever watched in my life. So much so that I actually went back and rewatched a good portion of this god-awful, horrendous film because I legitimately was like, I must be insane. I must be insane. There's no way the script is this bad. There's no way people like Bruce Dern signed on to something like this with a script being this poor. So I was like, I have to have missed something. I just have to have had. And I went back and I checked key things out. I watched a lot of this movie again. I fast forwarded, but I'm not even shitting you when I tell you I watched probably half of the film again, just fast forwarding to pieces, trying to piece things together. And in doing so, came up with no evidence that this ever had a chance of being competent. This is such a bad script. It's actually angering and mind-boggling. This is so dumb in so many ways. I'm really actually baffled how a movie like this gets made. But this just goes to show that you don't need talent to make a movie. You just need money. As long as you bring enough money, you can get actors. You got Shawnee Smith. You got Taryn Manning. You got Tyrese Gibson. You got Bruce Dern. They all signed on. And the majority of those people have significant roles. Shawnee Smith is the lead actress of this movie. And she's even a producer, but I don't buy that she actually produces the movie. I don't know what happened there, but she couldn't have been consulted on this script. That's nor here nor there. I don't even care about any of that. What I care about is the time that I wasted, and I hope that I can prevent you from wasting. Holy shit. I typically watch bad movies. I've covered the Jack in the Box trilogy. I just did the Humpty Dumpty movies. Like, Mary Had a Little Lamb. You name it. I've covered a lot of dumb shit on this channel. But for some reason, movies like this that have a budget, that try to take themselves seriously, that have actors, especially someone like Bruce Dern. Now, he's not in this a ton, but the dude has had some Academy Award success. Like, we're talking about a high caliber actor here, right? And then Shawnee Smith is like an icon with the Saw franchise. And it's just, it really is kind of unbelievable how stupid this movie actually is. The Bloodline Killer. Let's get into it. I'm going to talk spoilers because I don't know what else to do. I don't even care if you haven't watched this. I wouldn't care if I was you. I would stick for the spoilers. This movie is such trash. The only entertainment you'll ever get out of it is me breaking down how fucking stupid this movie is. So, yeah, okay. We jump into the beginning here, the opening, which is like, it's okay. It's okay. I don't understand the casting in this movie, though, because the sons in this movie, for some reason, are so close in age to Shawnee Smith. And I was thinking, she's got to be stepmom, right? No. They casted dudes that are like 10 years younger. I thought that there was a scene right at the beginning. I was like, oh, this must be his girlfriend or something. And then it was like, mom. I'm like, wait, mom? Wait, what? And then I kept waiting for the thing to be like, yeah, I met your dad, when you guys were young. And maybe, I married an older man or something. Nope. Shawnee Smith's their biological mother. That alone was really getting me. Anyways, it doesn't matter. We suspend disbelief for age all the time. We see 30-year-olds playing teenagers in slashers back in the 80s all the time. So it's just weird. That's all. It just seemed odd to cast them so similarly in age, but it's supposed to be this like mom with her kids, and they're like still living at home, and they're like coming to her and being like, Mom, I think I'm going to move out. And it's like, you're 45 years old. Yeah, I think it's time to move out. What the fuck are you doing here? Anyway, so we get the opening, and she comes out, shoots the killer. The killer somehow gets up right in front of her. We literally see him get up as she's turning around to look over somewhere, and he just gets up and leaves. And then she's like, oh, where'd he go? That was insane. I knew at that moment I was fucked. I knew at that moment I was in for a rough watch. Then we go in to one of the most insane exposition dump openings I've seen in a while. And it's not because it's this like over narration that's convoluted. Oh, no, 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 no. That would at least be at a little easier to follow. No, instead what they do is they put like 5 different news articles on the screen, which they keep flashing to different parts of it, but very quickly. And then it flashes back to the entire article for about, I don't know, 1 or 2 seconds. I went back. This was one of the things I went back to read each article, because they're like full newspaper clippings that have like multiple different paragraphs. And I'm like, are we the audience supposed to have read all of that stuff? I know we put newspaper clippings up on screens before, but this is literally the exposition to tell us what's going on within the Bloodline killings. What happened with the killer, how he got out, that he escaped, all of this stuff, and how it's connected to, you know, our Moira, the main character played by Shawnee. I read it all and was like, oh, this seems like it's kind of important information, but how the hell is anyone supposed to have read that fast? And then it ends up all just being for shit because this movie is so fucking stupid. But regardless, why would you put it up on the screen like that without, like, the way we usually do this is like there's a news report, right? And they show the newspaper clippings while they have the newscaster kind of telling you the gist of it. And then if you are like a big fan of it, you can always pause it for a little deeper of a dive if you want to look, you know, more into the information on the screen. That's your right, right? If you want to do that. But with a movie like this, it's like required for you to pause it, and you have to wait for that very specific second or two that the whole thing is up on the screen to pause it to actually read the entire articles 5 different times. Crazy way to present a bunch of information to an audience, especially if you were to see this in a theater. Could not, God forbid this ever got into a movie theater, but if it was in the theater and you weren't at home and you couldn't pause it, most people aren't going to pause it. Most people don't want to do that. I don't want to do that, but I did it because I was trying to figure out where am I missing things in here. Moving on from that, just unbelievable. Okay, so the Bloodline killer kills when they're young, right? In 1980. Then we're all the way up until modern times. So we're 40 some odd years later. And we get some flashbacks to follow that. But this is a big deal, right? This is like a smaller town. They're going for a Scream vibe here. That's definitely what they're aping off of, as well as Halloween. But they have this Bloodline killer, right? And he's known so much so that they're making an entire trilogy. They've already made at least one of the movies, which they're playing on TV. Moira signed off on these films. There's a book that's being written. But these are the most famous murders in this town, right? This is some of the most famous murders in the world, so it says, right? And you have them making films that the town watches, that kids are reenacting. They actually... I'll get to the scene where they come into their house later on. That's insane into itself. But they have this huge story of the Bloodline killer. That's literally his gimmick, is he kills people. His name is the Skeleton, because he wears a skull. Skeleton, get it? The mask is kind of trying to be like Chrome Skull, sort of, from the Laid to Rest. It doesn't matter. But moving on from that, this is a known thing within town, right? And for some reason, somehow, the sister of the killer lives in town, works at the hospital that Moira is brought to. She comes in to Shawnee's room, Moira's room, talks to her. The detectives come in. They can't piece this together. Moira is like, hey, you know that escaped mental patient that everyone knows about and is trying to kill his bloodline? Remember that guy who's still out there? It's obviously him. And the detectives are like, no, it's not him. He's got to be dead. Based on what? He just escaped. not that long ago. Even if I don't remember the timeline, if he just escaped, doesn't matter. But based on what? Are they saying because she shot him and this is in the hospital and then we go to a year later, the guy you shot was the Bloodline killer? They don't really ever talk about that much, but you never found his body. And even if you thought that he was the Bloodline killer and then she shot him and he wandered off and you never found his body and you're like, oh, he must be dead when you weren't even there when she shot him, how could you possibly say it's definitely not that guy? But that's not what I think they're saying. I think that they're saying the guy who attacked them that she shot is not the Bloodline killer, the escaped mental patient who specifically tries to target his own family. She's part of the family. And they're saying, no way it's her, or no way it's him, and don't even look into it. And then his sister in a small town, no one knows who it is, somehow. And when they're like, when she says, oh, this woman, who she doesn't know, by the way, somehow, she's like, oh, this woman, who she must have met, must know of, but doesn't seem to know of, works at the hospital in the small town, has a picture of herself up on the wall right outside this, Moira's room. Somehow, she never notices that. She works at the hospital. That she was like, I talked to this woman, she gives a description, and they're like, oh, didn't you lock this place down? We said no reporters or anything. The sister of the killer, you never contacted? And then when the guy looks into it later on, he's like, oh, the police somehow, when they get a report on somebody, they don't have access to the name change of somebody, especially someone like that, who's connected to the Bloodline killer. So when they get the report, he's like, oh, this is her name, because Moira is calling them saying, this chick's following me. Here's her license plate, run it. They won't do it. They finally do. And when they get it back, they're like, oh, she had a name change. And Tyrese's character is like, we'll look into that. And then he tells him, like, that detective work is all about, like, patience and meticulous blah blah blah, but he can't piece together that the sister of the bloodline killer, they didn't think to question her, they didn't think to go to her house, maybe he's there, they didn't know who she was, his sister, is this real? And then when they look, as I said, when they get the document, when they get the case or the file, her file, they don't have the information that what her name was and that she's related to the Bloodline killer? Really? And then when they run the fingerprints that they get, they're like, oh, well, we couldn't find any matches in our database, but then we did a different search and we found out that it's the Bloodline killer. He's in the database of like mentally ill people, not the criminals. The guy who was in prison, who they 100% should have thought it was, who Moira is saying it was, they didn't check his record first, and his records are not in the database of criminals. They have to go to a different database. They have to run the fingerprints purposely through something else to find out that it's the Bloodline killer. I mean, what logic is this movie using? What world does this movie exist in? Oh, we're just getting started. But this is the kind of shit that you have to be like, am I fucking insane? I literally, this movie made me, this is like people who get gaslit by their abusive spouses, so much so, and they're so demanding that you're insane, that they come back at you and they're like, you did not see what you just said. And they have such surety in themselves that you're like, am I actually insane? You actually start to question if you're insane. That's how dumb this movie was. I was like, there's no way it's this incompetent. There's no way that this doesn't make this much sense. Oh yeah, having gone back and watched half of these scenes again, this is exactly what it is. It's so fucking stupid. I haven't seen a movie that's upset me this much in a while, because as dumb as other movies are, they're not this dumb. Because this movie really does try to take itself seriously. This movie really does try to be like a legit film. And like Shawnee is giving like a performance here. She's crying, she's screaming, she's doing it all. And other people are trying to do similar things, but Shawnee's really giving it her all here. So she brings it to a terrible film, to an absolutely dreadful experience. Oh my God, it's unbelievable. Anyway, that whole thing with the sister of the killer, and they're related to Shawnee, who's their cousin, and she was like, and then there's this whole like subplot where the Bruce Dern, her psychologist or psychiatrist, I don't know if he prescribes drugs or not. He is having her do some like type stuff where she's gonna go in, she's gonna look at very Five Nights at Freddy's, like remembering the past in like a dream basically. And there's this kind of like subplot where she's whispering in the killer's ear, like, getting him to kill her father, I think, something like that. But that's never really explored. I don't really understand that, to be honest. I think that's what that was. But that whole thing with him being the literal bloodline killer, like that's how they know him. He specifically goes after his bloodline, and they can't connect the dots to his bloodline? Really? And you don't believe he's the killer when he's an escaped mental patient who would specifically be targeting his bloodline? And you're like, nah, he's dead. It can't be him. Guys, it is like, it's like the film is purposely treating you like you're an idiot. It's like, you're a moron. You'll never catch on to any of this stuff. If this is supposed to be a parody, then it is the most like dry parody in the history of parodies, because this is like every trope under the sun. The cops never believe her no matter how obvious it is. Is that what they're going for? Is this supposed to be like satire? Is that the attempt here? Like Scream? Because if it is, Scream is very winky. Scream is very obviously like telling you that we're satire. We're kind of taking it seriously, but it's obviously very winky. It's very fourth wall breaking. It's very obvious that it's satire. If this is satire, then this is the driest satire of all time. Because not at any point do they ever try to suggest that this is satire. But they do try to go the Scream route in a way. It feels like there's homages. There's definitely homages to things, right? These people have seen some movies, right? You get a Beetlejuice reference with the, this stuff reads like stereo instructions or whatever. You get a Halloween reference in here, not only just in the plot, but Tyrese's character says something like, your compassion is overwhelming. And then you get the flashback scenes where she keeps telling her to look at the flowers, which is a direct quote or very similar to the Walking Dead with Carol and all of that. So, like, I get all of your little in references. And then Scream with them selling the rights to the movie, and the movie plays on the screen within town and all of that stuff. Very, very Stab. Very Town That Dreaded Sundown meta sequel. Stuff like that. Like, I get it. You've seen a movie, but you don't know how to write a movie. You don't know how to write a movie. You've seen one, but that doesn't mean you know how to write them. And you might love this stuff, but oh my God, it's time to go back to screenwriting classes. There's a scene where kids, it's like Halloween night, so I guess they're pranking them. So the family who was attacked by the Bloodline killer, or at least somebody, but is related to the Bloodline killer, and everybody would think it would be the Bloodline killer who did it. Anyway, the kids in town are supposed to be little shits. Like they're trying to be like those kids from Halloween Kills, the ones that wear the silver shamrock masks that are little fuckheads. They're going around like spray painting buildings, and one of them gets their comeuppance by looking in the car. Doesn't matter. Moving on from that, they like break into the house with the one of the sons, and he comes down with like a baseball bat, and he's looking through the house, and then they run out with knives in their hands. I think they're fake, doesn't matter, but they're wearing skull masks, and then the skull mask like morphs into the skull mask that the killer actually wears for a second. I guess that's like PTSD from him or something, even though he's not the brother who saw the Bloodline killer who attacked the father in that moment. So I guess he just saw the ones in the newspaper. I'm assuming that's what that is. I don't know. But regardless, these kids come up on him with knives in his house, broke into his house. And then he gets up and he's like, if you don't get out of here, you little fuckers, I'm going to feed you, cut you up and feed you to the dogs or whatever. Like, very Joker line there. and cut you into pieces and feed you to your pooches. It's not the same line. Anyway, then his girlfriend, which there's all this drama in the movie. None of it works. None of it works. The guy's like broken up with his girlfriend. He's trying to get back together with her. There's a lot of brother drama. There's the brother mom drama where he like finds out she was sending letters to the killer. None of that stuff works. None of that stuff is developed. Same stuff with Tara Manning's, his sister's stuff, where she's like made a promise to her mom that she was going to find some kind of purpose or meaning for them, and that's why she's drugging him and keeping him locked up in a house and trying to, bring him back to the light or something. That never ever goes anywhere. And she somehow overpowers Tyrese and kills him. She doesn't end up killing him though, because he does end up surviving, even though she takes a gun to his head with a pillow and shoots him. But I guess he survives that. Whatever. Moving on from any of that. None of the drama, none of the stuff works. But the kids break into the house. The guy freaks out on them. Is like, he doesn't even freak out that hard. He's just like telling them off, like, screams at him that he's gonna kill them. In the scene, it's just whatever. But then his girlfriend's like standing on the steps, and she's like, "That's a little harsh, isn't it?" And he starts laughing. He's like, "Ha ha ha, little fuckers! They broke into your house with knives and a mask that looks like the killer who killed your family. Oh my God, what? Those kids should be shot and killed. Not should be, but they would be. You're asking to get killed. They would 100% have to call the cops. Are you kidding me? They're just like, you overreacted." What? What? That's an overreaction? Kids break into your house wearing the mask of the killer who killed your family and have knives and attack you while you're on the ground and then are like, haha, trick or treat kind of shit. No. No. You're a little hard on that? A little hard? That kind of stuff is just dumb. Beyond dumb. I guess it's not a plot hole or anything. It's just stupid. Unbelievable. Then they have the detectives that are put on the case who are like, I'm working the case and this and that. And Tyrese and Shawnee are going back at each other. And he's like, I have 10 people breathing down my neck for my job and I got to take this seriously. And it's like, been a year. You couldn't connect the killer. It really took her pressuring you to check license plates. You finally got fingerprints. You ran them through multiple different databases to get confirmation that it was the most obvious person imaginable. Like, imaginable? Really? But anyway, then they put another detective on the case. And that's supposed to be some big thing, because the other cops, when he's put on the case, they're like, oh, he's obsessed with the case. He's obsessed with this. And then some guy walks by and he has like a little banter that they overhear. And he's like, he's a goddamn liability is what he is. And then they kind of like laugh like, oh, this guy's going to be hardcore. He plays no fucking role. The only thing he does is he gets a phone call from Tyrese. And then he goes over and picks him up. And then they drive to the house and shoot the fucking killer. That's it. He just walks outside and they both shoot him. He's literally pointless to the fucking movie. He serves zero purpose. He serves no purpose. Tyrese could have got himself up, got into a car, drove over, then shot him himself. Literally adding this extra character, it was a complete filler. Complete waste of time. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I was just like, this guy has to have something. He's got to do something in this movie. He just like takes a call and they're like, yeah, we ran the fingerprints. It's 100% match. And he's like, 100% match? And they're like, yeah, it's the Bloodline killer. And he's like, click. And then goes and gets Tyrese and they shoot him. That's it. That's the whole role. That's all he does. That's all he does. Why is he brought into the movie? He's a goddamn liability. No, he's a goddamn waste of time. He's a goddamn diversion. What is the purpose of him? Oh my God. Oh my fucking God. Anyway, we get to the scene where the Bloodline killer finally attacks all of them. He comes into the house. You have his cousin, and then you have his cousin's 2 kids. So his second cousins, right? That's how that works, right? Yeah. And then one of the sons, the girlfriend that he gets back together with, that has like some like event that they have to go to, and the brother's like, oh man, this is why you this is the one good thing of why you broke up with her, because we didn't have to go to these things. And he's like, it's tonight. And he's like, oh my God, like I really have to go and I have to get dressed up. And he's like, I need an outfit and all this stuff. And then it's just them at a fucking ice rink skating around in cheap costumes. Like the guy's wearing like a Dracula costume that he bought for 50 cents. Like he's like, oh my god, I have to go to this thing. It's literally just them skating. It's the only time that they're actually like having a good time as a family. Is just them skating around the ice rink, talking to nobody else. And he's like, oh my god, we have to go to these things. Go to what? He made it seem like it was some gala where they had to talk to stuffy people or something. You literally went to a fucking ice rink to skate around with your family and laugh. That's what you wanted to... Yeah, break up with your girlfriend. I don't want to go to a fucking ice rink and skate around with my family and have a good time. I'm Scarface now. I don't like fun. I wear a tattered sweater and cry in my bedroom at 45 years old with my mom who's 10 years older than me and screaming at her over nothing. Oh my god. Anyway, the killer comes in, attacks all of them. They finally get to the climax, and they all dogpile him. And then I think the girlfriend runs in and smashes them through the window. Guys, they're on the first floor. They run through like the veranda doors, right? There's like French doors that lead outside. She tackles them through the door. They didn't fall far. They fell just as far as it is for you to fall to the ground. Bunch of people being tackled. Everyone gets knocked out. Everyone gets knocked out. The Bloodline killer is the first one up. Bro, all of you getting, like, all of you just falling to the ground together knocked you all out? Are you serious? And then, best part of the movie. Best part of the fucking movie. The Bloodline killer. His whole gimmick is he's there to kill his family. He's the Bloodline killer. He kills his bloodline. That's the gimmick. That's the whole movie. He has all of them dead to rights. All of them. They're all laying there knocked out for some reason. I don't know why, but they're all knocked out. We'll just say they all got knocked out somehow. He takes an axe and he kills. Guess who? Is it his cousin? No. Is it his second cousin? No. Is it his other second cousin? Nope. He kills the literal one person that isn't related to him. He kills the girlfriend. And then the cop sirens are coming, which makes him then go to leave. And he just walks out front. And then you're thinking, is he going out there to sacrifice himself? Did he kill that one girl to just punish them because he knew that's what would hurt them the most? Is killing the girlfriend of his cousin's kid? Not actually doing the bloodline killing like the whole movie had led us to believe, because that's the whole literal title and point of the movie, even though they really never get into why he wants to do what he does, except for Shawnee's like, or Moira is like whispering in his ear like, do it for me, or some whatever the fuck it is. So she was the one that was like antagonizing him, but we're also supposed to sympathize with her, but they never really make her that morally gray, except for like the letters, which they never really get into and they never really address, and then the movie just ends. But you think that he goes to like run away from the cops because he hears the siren, he has all of them dead rights, he could just kill all of them. And if he was going out to do a suicide anyways, why not just kill all of them one after the other? But then he just walks out front, and then when he sees the cops, he then runs from them and they chase him down. They shoot at him. He doesn't even die. This movie ends with him still like running away from them in the woods. But why would he walk around to the front where the cops are to then see them and then to run off with them in pursuit? Why wouldn't he take off out the back going away from the sirens if that's what scared him away? And if he didn't really care and he felt like he had the time, why didn't he kill his bloodline while they were sitting there unconscious? Guys, I'm telling you, this is the dumbest fucking movie. This is the dumbest fucking movie. It's unbelievable. And please don't watch this movie. But if you do, it's at your own peril. I did my best to entertain you enough so that you feel like you shouldn't have to watch this movie. But some of you will be compelled, and that's your right. But this movie's shameful. This movie, I've said enough. I usually don't do big, long discussions about this, but this movie pissed me off that much that I've now wasted the hour and like 40 minutes this movie is, plus probably spent another 40 minutes rewatching scenes because I was so obsessed with how stupid everything was. I was like, there's no way. And then I spent, another 30 minutes plus here talking about this movie? I gave this movie like 3 hours of my life. And I'm hoping that I can save you guys an hour and a half of your life. Or I guess now we'll net it at like 50 minutes because I took 30 minutes of your life and I continue to keep taking seconds. But I hope this is actually entertaining because I put a lot of extra effort into this. And I know how much you guys like when I shit on films for some reason. I don't like doing it, but I can't believe it. I can't believe it. So, yeah. Stop making movies. This was horrible. Please. And everyone who acted in this, please never take a script like this again for money. I don't care. I don't care. I mean, if they're paying you tons of money, if someone was offering me like $1 million to star in this or a few $1 million, I'd be like, okay, whatever. That sucks. I mean, I'll throw it away to the highest bidder, but I ain't going to do this for no, like, pittance. I'm not going to be like, all right, my hourly rate or my daily rate is like $500. No. You want me to star in this shit? You better pull out that checkbook. So, anyways, that's that. Don't watch it. Or do. It's up to you. Bye.